Scott, can you tell me how the museum got mixed up or associated with the Fallout community, please?
So a number of our museum staff here are video gamers, and they've always loved the Fallout franchise. So as we talked strategically about, hey, where do we want the museum to go next? I said, well, what about Fallout? Well, then the question is, how do you get in touch with all the right people that could make that happen? And one of our museum senior staff, our director of education, Matt Malinowski, actually just did a Hail Mary. He did an email out to Bethesda Game Studios, and they answered him back and said, yeah, we'd like to talk. In fact, we're coming out for Pioneer Days in 2024. We could stop by the museum and talk with you. So they did. They came out here. We talked with them a little bit, and that started almost a year-long interaction where we talked about how could we partner with Bethesda Game Studios, what would be the content of a Fallout display, how can we make it fun for the Fallout fans, and then what would it consist of? And what you see behind me is a result of all that effort that we just opened here in November, what we call our World of Fallout display.
Is it like its own Fallout display, if you will, that encompasses all the games?
Well, one of the first things that Bethesda Game Studios said is that anything we displayed, we need to do it in a manner that was also going to have an educational tie. So not just showing every artifact or every item from the game. Talk about, well, what would you find in the real world? Because it was the real world that kind of influenced the Fallout narrative, that influenced the Fallout lore. And so try to find that means of communicating both. So directly behind you, Chad, for example, we have a Pip-Boy, and right next to a Pip-Boy, we have a Geiger counter, because a Pip-Boy in the show allows you to measure radioactivity. So talk a little bit about both. Since we're in Vegas, obviously Fallout New Vegas is of great interest to both us with our community as well as to the Fallout franchise. So we also have some really cool things on New Vegas. We had the University of Nevada, Las Vegas's entertainment engineering program build us a almost perfect replica of the Welcome to New Vegas sign. They took the Welcome to Las Vegas sign, as you've seen in both the game and also in the TV show, incorporated all of the attributes of that. And so they did that, and we love that kind of partnership because we get a great display item that really draws our fans' interest. But these young men and women that help design and build it, they get something for their portfolio that helps them as they graduate from college and go on to their careers. So we try to find all that right mix of things, develop it, worked iteratively with Bethesda Games to make sure that everything we had, whether it be a graphic display, was going to always fit in within the Fallout lore and franchise, was always going to be correct and accurate, and it was also going to anticipate a fan's interest.
At what point did you find out that it was such a phenomenon and it encompassed the stuff that you have in the museum with the atomic Fallout and everything like that?
Well, so I'd of course seen elements of the game, watched season 1 of Fallout on Amazon Prime streaming, and actually loved the show. It was amazing what Amazon and Kilter Films were able to do. As I talked with the folks that are avid video gamers, I began to understand exactly how immersive it was. So actually, I watched on YouTube complete playthroughs of the game so I could get an understanding of what the gamers were seeing, even though I'm really not one. But what really showed me the level of interest was after we opened our exhibit. So we opened them on November 14th. We had, over a 4-day period, over 3,000 people come through the museum and through the Fallout displays. Incredible response from the fans. I've had people that came through, including some of the people that were involved with New Vegas, that came through and they would look at what we displayed and they think, hey, you know, what you're able to do in basically a 3-month period was incredible. So it felt good from a museum perspective, but I think it was hopefully meeting all the needs of the fans.
What's your favorite character in the show?
Okay, I love what Lucy does. Just, you know, her forthright approach, Maximus with his power armor, but you gotta love the ghoul. You gotta love Walton Goggins. I remember following him all the way back when he was on TV shows like Justified. The guy is great. So really looking forward to middle of December when season 2 drops, and in particular because it ties to Las Vegas, to the new Vegas version of it in Fallout.
Do you think there's a chance that because Walton Goggins and some of the cast went to the Pioneer Saloon?
So here we're going to be bartending a little bit, or
Is that something that you're looking forward to maybe trying to pursue, is getting some of the Fallout TV show cast here and game developers to do like a signing and a media event?
We would love that. Again, we're always talking with Bethesda Games, and I know they're talking with Amazon Prime and Kilter Films. Hopefully we'll be able to do something that brings in both the stars, but I would love not just those wonderful actors, but you know, also some of the technical folks that are involved in it. When we had our grand opening party on November 13th, we actually had one of the makeup artists that was involved in season 1, and I was talking with him. I always like to see all the people that are behind the scenes that help all those actors be able to portray their art. So get all those folks, and then finally, of course, the gamers. It doesn't work unless you also have the gamers. So if we could have all of that, that would be awesome. So man, fingers crossed.
You said that you had such a great turnout with the Fallout fans. What surprised you about the fandom when they did show up? Were you expecting a certain type of demographic, or what surprised you about all of them, I guess?
You know, interesting. I'm not sure I was terribly surprised in some ways. So, you know, side note, I got a couple of novels published, so I go to Comic-Con in San Diego every year as part of that. And so I often will interact with fandom. And, you know, I've always been impressed with people that have a passion, whether it be for a game or a TV show, some sort of series, is you know, how respectful and nice they are. They just like their stuff and they like being immersed in it. And if you share something with them that they like it even more, and they just want to talk with you sometimes for hours. We had some of the original folks from Obsidian Games came through on Sunday and were talking with us on what they were doing on Fallout New Vegas. And a couple fans came up to them and they just stood there for a while and were just signing things. I think Brian Menzies designed the Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle. So he was signing bottles of Sunset Sarsaparilla. So it's always neat seeing that intersection between the art and the fan, but just the passion of the fans was incredible, as evidenced by so many people we had, where we had sometimes lines in the lobby waiting just to get the tickets. Nobody was complaining, and they couldn't wait to get inside, and they couldn't wait to do press pennies. We have press penny machines. Who would have known? That's a thing that everybody loves as much as they do.
Can they get snow globes here?
They can get snow globes. I think you'd be amazed the amount of merchandise we went through in the last 4 days. We're reordering things. We got some really cool things that we've been able to share, including some exclusives that you can only get here at the Atomic Museum that tie to the Fallout franchise. But yeah, we would have folks that come in that would walk through the museum, see all of our nuclear science displays, and go into the world of Fallout displays and walk out with bags full of merch. So that was really cool to see.
What is some of the merch that you have for sale here?
Well, we have a number of different things. Let me show you a few things. So first and foremost, we have from Jones Soda, both grape as well as Sunset Sarsaparilla soda. So you can come and get that here. We also had, working with another manufacturer, they did a particular shirt that you can actually only get at the Atomic Museum right now that shows Vault Boy. And it's called the Vault Boy Atlas shirt. You can see him kind of lifting the nuclear structure over his shoulders. We actually have another shirt that'll be coming out hopefully in December. It's also be a limited edition, but you can only get those here. Then there's just a number of other things that you can get at places, but we want to make sure that there's a diversity of things. So bobbleheads and such, like this one of Lucy, or statues that you can get. So we're trying, of course, to find a mix of things that interest the Fallout fan.
You have a puppet there. Can we see that?
So, I was talking with Jess Finster from Bethesda Game Studios. We would do these weekly calls, and we were planning, how are we going to do the grand opening? And they were kind enough to send us a full-size mascot costume. It is huge. It is a little bit of a bear to get inside of it. And if you try to wear it in the heat of summer in Las Vegas, it would probably be really difficult. But they sent us that. We're on the thing. I said, well, what else could you do? I said, well, we need to do something. She goes, how about a puppet? She says, I can send you that. And so next thing you know, she arrives and brings to me a Vault Boy puppet. And so we were able to bring this out during the ribbon cutting. Jess and I are out there. We have the ribbon. We said, hey, we need somebody in order to really make this a party. We need Vault Boy. And I brought this one out, and she and I agreed, yeah, it's neat. I love the quality of it, but he can't really get that thumbs up iconic thing. And then we had Vault Boy walk out amongst the crowd, and everybody was cheering, and even some of the social media afterwards was so cool about, hey, look, Vault Boy's cutting the ribbon.
How do you think your father would react to the new generation of fans of the show coming through and absorbing all the other artifacts? What do you think his reaction would be to that?
So reaction, my dad and some of the other founders, actually that's something I think about a lot with anything that either I or the rest of the team starts planning for the museum. And the Fallout displays is a great example of one that I get to think my way carefully through in the early days of it, to think about how that ties to the museum's narrative. Because I was concerned, candidly, that someone may say, well, wait a second, you're a Smithsonian affiliate, you're a national museum, and you're putting in pop culture displays. How does that work? Well, it works because a couple of different things. First off, we already had pop culture display items within the museum, and there's been a universe of pop culture that was influenced by the early days of nuclear testing. In fact, if you ever want to see something that goes way back in the 1950s, there's a movie called The Amazing Colossal Man. It depicts in black and white a soldier that's out on, they don't think they call it the Nevada test site, but in essence it was that, and he gets exposed to a gamma ray bomb and ultimately grows to over 50 feet tall, goes crazy, attacks the strip, those kind of things. But that was the first of many movies that were inspired by nuclear science, by atomic things. Godzilla, of course, is the other one, and the Fallout franchise is one of the more recent ones. So pop culture being influenced by atomic science, that was already something that was embedded within our museum. The fact that it also then our displays tied to education, that also gave me that confidence that we were continuing that core objective of making sure that anything we displayed was going to have a educational connection with it. And lastly, as a museum, we have to be responsive to the interests of our patrons. We gotta listen to their feedback and make sure that we're adjusting, whether it be putting in more interactional displays or leaning towards other things. I've got grand plans for hopefully introducing virtual reality displays here in the next year. We have another one where it'd be kind of cool. You'd actually walk into a room and then Robert Oppenheimer would come out around the gadget and talk to you about what he was developing with the gadget. There's many ways that we can do that. So that would allow people to connect not just with the nuclear history of the Manhattan Project, they'd be able to connect with the movie Oppenheimer, but maybe understand a little bit something more on a personal level.
I could spend all day talking to you about this. I appreciate your time. There's two things I would like to ask you before we wrap up. What would you say to the Fallout fans if they're thinking about visiting the Atomic Museum, and fans in general of just history, Las Vegas history, and the atomic age? What would you say?
Well, so if you're a Fallout fan and you want to come in, please come and see it. The plan is to have the exhibit open throughout all of 2026. I know I've got a lot of questions. Hey, is it just going to be for a few weeks or a month? No, all of 2026. So please come in and see our displays. You're going to see things here that are kind of cool to see. Oh, just over my left shoulder, we have a couple of vault suits that Kilter Films was kind enough to loan us from season 1 of the show. So there were on-screen used vault suits. We have a whole bunch of other on-screen used items from season 1. So please come in and see those. We have a whole bunch of artifacts and items that Bethesda Games was able to loan us that go into, that come from just the game side, a T-60 helmet and a number of others. The Wand Company loaned us all of their versions of Pip-Boys. In fact, I think we'll hopefully be getting another version of a Pip-Boy here shortly we'll be putting on display. So the idea is you can see a whole broad set of both things from both the game as well as the show here at this display. And throughout the year, we're going to keep adding to it. So hopefully if you came and see it as part of Pioneer Days, if you come back in a few months, you're going to see something new. That's going to be our goal. And then for the rest of the museum, we're going to continue to try to incorporate new items that may not be in the world of Fallout, but hopefully are going to be interesting. We're very excited about the idea of being able to recreate that 1950s era above ground nuclear blast down on Glitter Gulch area, the downtown Las Vegas, and letting people experience what was going on. And we have a whole bunch of other ideas of things we want to immerse people with.
Lastly, you brought up that you are a novelist and you go to Comic-Con. What's your novels about?
So, again, worked 30 years for the federal government, wrote mountains of reports and things. Not terribly exciting, but I've always had a creative side of me. Actually, many years ago when I first started working at the Nevada test site, and you're driving on the bus, I started writing a vampire novel. Actually, I found what I started writing in the 1980s years ago. It was really pretty horrible. Looking back on it, it was pretty bad. But that interest followed me, and so in the late, about 2008, 2009, I started writing again. I've already had 2 books published. Midland, which is a zombie novel, young adult zombie novel, and Bloodline, which is a vampire novel. And I've got a couple others that are in the works, including the sequel to Midland. In fact, I just got invited yesterday to go speak to a group of middle school students here in Las Vegas in a couple months. It's always neat as an author where you can take your published work and then go interact with people, whether it be at Comic-Con or just in an educational environment.
How can people find you, your novels, and your work, and maybe connect with you on, if you have social media? And then how can people connect with the Atomic Museum? And if they have questions about the world of Fallout or anything that the museum deals with, how can they reach out?
So please, if you have any questions about the Atomic Museum, reach out. We have links on our webpage. The Atomic Museum Vegas, I believe, is our website. So look at that one and send us your feedback also. We are always interested in fans, items, things that you'd be interested in us displaying. If you have something that you think would fit into our displays, reach out to us. We may not be able to, I was sharing with someone a little bit earlier, we can't become the nuclear science attic of the world, but we want to look at items, and if it fits within the museum, we'll look to try to get it out on display. For me, Scott Wade Books is my own personal website, but that's really actually been kind of put aside as I became the vice chairman for the museum. I'm really kind of immersed now in making sure that this museum grows and prospers and continues to meet the museum fans' needs.
The museum is very, very special. It's very well put together, and it's a lot bigger than most people would expect. I really appreciate you guys taking the time and giving me the opportunity to interview you, and thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out and talking with us.
Thanks for watching Untitled Interview. If you liked the conversation you just watched, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're interested, there's lots more just like that right here.